Hi there, I'm Andrew. Welcome to Adventure Rider. Today we're going to introduce you to the REV'IT Expedition Goretex Adventure Boot. This is, I think, the best adventure boot on the market for one simple reason. It is the only one that gives you genuinely the same levels of protection that you'd find in an Enduro or an MX boot without sacrificing in any way on all of the comfort requirements, the all-day wearability, the off-bike wearability you'd want from an adventure boot. And only REV'IT really have managed to fuse those two very, very disparate things on different ends of that spectrum into one boot that can be all things to all people. And that is no mean feat. It's incredibly difficult to achieve, and I think they've done an absolutely amazing job. If we think of what an Enduro boot is, it's safety focused. You are riding serious riding where there's a very real chance you're going to need to have your ankle protected in the event of a twist, a fall, if the bike falls on it, and many other things in between. And therefore you're going to forego all the little comfort features that you might want from a day-to-day riding boot around town just to focus on that safety. And as a result, you get a boot that's big, it's heavy, it's stiff, and it's rigid, and it's safety focused primarily, and that is its main function. At the other end of our spectrum, we have our road riding, our touring, our sort of urban boots, which are generally focused around incorporating protection into comfort factors where we can wear it off the bike and we have nice ergonomics, a lightweight feel, good feedback from the controls and all these things. So where do you sit trying to fuse those two things? It's very, very difficult to do. But as adventure riders, we are really a very demanding bunch. We could be doing everything in one day, even in one ride. We could be starting on our dual sport in town with city riding, going out to the A roads, then onto some sweeping B roads, and then onto off-road trails with mud, with ruts, with rocks and everything in between, and then coming back in a mixture of weather all in one day. I mean, I've done it many times. And so how do you account for gear that can cover all of those bases? Well, not easily. And in truth, the majority of adventure boots are much further down towards this sort of city-focused touring end of the spectrum. Most adventure boots generally tend to be a touring boot in their form with a tweak, with a nod towards adventure, so you may have a more durable sole and a few little kind of protective points perhaps over and above what you get in your touring version of that boot. But that stops a long way short in terms of the genuine protection you'd need in the event of the bike falling on you, twisting, if you get it caught when you're going on the trail, trying to pedal along, those sorts of things. They're a real possibility. And in fact, in a review on another channel of one of the better selling boots in that segment of the sort of adventure, typical adventure boots in the market, the chap was wearing it. He was on a trip to Morocco, came off his bike fell on his foot, broken ankle, end of trip. And had he been wearing something like these or an Enduro or motocross boot, then I think it's safe to say that that may not have happened. And it could have been, not a trip brought short by lack of protection in the footwear. And I find this strange because we came from an urban world, and in the urban world, generally speaking, there's a hierarchy of importance when it comes to protection. You've got head first, then hands, then you've got jacket, trousers, and boots at the bottom. So we're going around town, we're almost by definition on and off the bike a lot as urban riders, and therefore you have whole segments of categories like motorcycle trainers, which are things you wouldn't normally think to entertain in an adventure spectrum. But there does seem to be a bit of a disconnect then, because when we look at the adventure market and we actually look at the highest volume of sales in the adventure boot segments, the highest volume comes at the boots that are sort of mid-height, which I find strange because if you're going to go for protection in your footwear, go for protection in your footwear. What's the point in getting a halfway house, especially in an adventure bike, because you're fundamentally limited. You could go off-road in it, but I certainly wouldn't. And you've got a very real chance, if you get into a sticky situation, of not being protected when you need to be. So in adventure, in my mind, it jumps from boots at the bottom to boots just below helmet. So it goes helmets, boots, then gloves, jackets, and trousers. And that's because there's such a real influence with our footwear, with the riding, with what we're doing. And if you think about your favorite YouTubers, your favorite Instagram adventure celebrities, look down at their feet and I can guarantee you they are not wearing typical adventure boots. They are wearing Enduro and MX boots in the vast majority of cases. The reason being, they need real boots that do the real job. Why is it that then we as riders who want to do this kind of stuff are happy to go for a lightweight, more limited protective version of that? So REV'IT have basically taken this theory, this concept that I've outlined, and tried to plug this gap with a boot that marries all of those incredibly difficult to compose things together without compromise. As a result, as you can probably appreciate, that requires a lot of R&D and it requires some top spec materials and a completely unique approach. And as a result, you end up with a very expensive product. This is 650 quid. However, the predecessor, which was 499, received unbelievably good reviews despite having a couple of ergonomic limitations. Those have been completely ironed out in the new Goretex version that we have here, and therefore this boot really genuinely is, in my mind, a 10 out of 10 boot. I can say that because I've been using this extensively over the past riding season through winter, and these things could not have been given more of a baptism of fire. I have really put these through some horrible conditions, and they have done everything brilliantly. They have been through the wettest, longest, muddiest, most horrible rides off-road. They have saved my feet when others wouldn't, when I've got them caught in places I shouldn't. Riding a very heavy dual sport bike in those conditions as well, and they've been fantastic on road. They've been comfortable to wear all day off the bike. I have literally no complaints about these boots whatsoever. So they have, to me, ultimately achieved that goal of trying to reconcile those two things. So I would be willing to pay more for a boot that can achieve that and perhaps save money on an unnecessarily expensive helmet or jacket. I think you would be more justified in putting money into something that protects your feet in all situations than spending money on perhaps something that's a little bit more flashy in some of those other areas of our clothing. Just a personal opinion, and of course we're aware not everybody is doing off-road riding in muddy, wet, horrible conditions, so therefore your requirements may only be lighter in the adventure world. But I will just say it's better to have than not, and it's nice to have the option and not feel limited by the protection in your boots, or have to buy another pair if you decide to go and do something a little bit more focused, because these will get you covered in all those situations, which is just a wonderful position to be in. They look fantastic and they're really comfy to wear. So all of that plays into the perfect boot for me in my mind. There is a couple of others that resemble this sort of thing. I'd say maybe the City Adventure 2, they're quite a popular boot, and they do at a glance have a few similar features this does, but they do stop short ultimately quite a bit in terms of the overall protection, particularly in this upper section, as I say, compared to this boot and other similar sort of Enduro and MX type boots on the market. So therefore there is a bit of a price difference. I think they absolutely look the business. The materials used literally everywhere on this boot are like from the top shelf of the manufacturing specs. So we have a Vibram sole, the highest quality Vibram sole you can get. We have a Goretex membrane on this newer version, upgraded from the Hydrotex in-house Rev'it membrane that they used to have, which is obviously great to have, very dependable lifetime guarantee on the membrane, as I'm sure you all know. You get super fabric material on the upper. Super fabric is laser bonded ceramic plates, and as a result, that's very expensive to manufacture, but it does give you incredible durability. So you literally, despite what I've done with these, and they've get caught on pegs and all sorts, there's literally no marks at all. As I said, very much a working pair of boots here. I did try to clean them, but they were so incredibly filthy after my last ride. They still look a little bit dirty, and I'm about to get them dirty again. So I wasn't going to make them too clean. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't believe that they actually got used anyway. But this has fundamentally a system which they call a dynamic support frame, which is an exoskeleton round a kind of inner boot. So on the inside, let me just open this out quickly, we have what is almost, in essence, a kind of sports boot-like profile, really slim and really sleek, that is then clad in all this really durable, rugged, top spec stuff, and is surrounded by this dynamic support frame, which has this hinge system here. You can see me rocking backwards and forwards. It has a very hard-wearing TPU system of protection in the shin plate, which is really chunky, down the rear and round the ankle, forming a very large cup as well. This allows flexion forwards and backwards, which is what you want when you're walking around, when you are putting yourself into different positions on the pegs on the bike, making it very comfortable and ergonomic, so you're not limited like you are in most motocross and enduro boots where it's just one big space boot. These will flex where you want, but not where you don't. So it doesn't allow for flexion in the other positions. And you have things like a hidden shank in the sole as well that's going to prevent any flexion in the downward position on the sole itself. So going back to the inside, as you saw, very quick Velcro opening system. They rock back and then you open out the boa system. And this is the one major improvement from the predecessor. These are super easy to get on and off. They used to be a little bit of a faff and you needed to put a bit of effort to get them on and off because it was a relatively tight opening. This is now massively improved, and the ergonomics is such that it is just really easy to get on and off. The fit is absolutely spot on, so I'm a 46 and I have a 46 here. The comfort liner is wonderful with the Ortholite insert, and we even have some like little things you wouldn't even know about. So on the tongue, you get a nice degree of protection and padding, but you actually have C-Soft armor in here, which is Rev'it's in-house D30-like armor. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that term in reference to a different armor, but it has a soft quality under normal circumstances that locks together dispersing impact when it needs to, and that keeps you very protective. So armor all the way down here, armor all the way around the outside, armor everywhere, but you would not know it. Let me just quickly ratchet this boa system up so we can get it back to its normal configuration. Because of all that, it does away with things like the external buckle system. You usually get 4 of them on a typical adventure or an MX or an Enduro boot that adds weight, adds heft. It makes it more difficult to get trousers over. So these are really nice and sleek in form, but you still get a good wide sole that allows you perfect placement on the foot pegs. I've had absolutely no problems with those at all. It's got a really good grip to it. The comfort factor is amazing. I have put these through the wettest conditions and they have always had me sorted. And I've had other boots that have sort of struggled. I've had boots that have had good waterproofing but lacked in the protection. These lack in no area whatsoever. So I do think it is quite impressive when a brand sets out to plug a gap that basically no one else has managed to do. So I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. And as I say, you will hopefully understand a bit more about why they are as expensive as they are to manufacture, whilst maintaining all the lightweight, comfort, sleek profile, and frankly good looks that you want from an adventure boot too. So a cracking effort from Rev'it. They're in stock and available at adventurerider.co.uk. We have them in store in our Fulham store over on the King's Road as well. And I would like to point out we do free shipping, free returns. I think I've been a little bit too uncommercial. Some people didn't realize that's what we do here. We sell the gear as well as review it, and we only stock and sell the stuff we deem to be the best. We've got 17 years experience nearly in the motorcycle clothing market, so we know what we're looking for and we know what works and doesn't. And as I said, this is my pair. I use these and abuse these, and they still are absolutely wonderful, and I would look forward to wearing these every single day of the year. And if I was pinched on budget, I would definitely put more into this and save it elsewhere in the gear that I was wearing. So hopefully that's sort of helpful. I think these boots deserve more of a spotlight shone on them because I don't see them in many top 5s, which is crazy. But I think that's purely because people look at the price point, they don't quite understand the concept or how well these actually achieve that concept. So hopefully now that gives it a little bit more perspective. So these 100% have my stamp of approval, 10 out of 10, best adventure boot on the market by some margin, I would say. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. We've got tons of amazing stuff coming up for the 2024 season ahead. Thank you for watching, goodbye.